thought about how the voice assistants of Iron Man used to be so much awesome. Iron Man had Friday, Iron Man had Jarvis, he had this two voice assistant, and they were hands down, they were one of the best science fiction things that I have seen at least. Now how the hell they were so much awesome? How the hell it was happening that Iron Man was giving them commands and they used to do it in literally no time? They were doing it like a human being is doing those things. And most importantly, can we bring Jarvis, Friday, this all voice assistants, this all AI systems into life? Is it possible? Let me tell you, my dear friends, it is possible with the help of a generative AI. So guys, we are running our playlist called Swag AI, where we are gonna make everyone AI ready. I am gonna make you from absolute beginner to advanced in generative AI. So we have already covered Jarvis in our first episode. This is the episode 2, and we are going to make another voice assistant of Iron Man, Friday, to alive. And yes, you heard it right, it will be a voice assistant. We will be doing text to speech, we will be doing speech to text, we will be using Google Gemini. In the last video we have just seen a glimpse of what Google AI Studio has to offer us, what Gemini actually is. In this video we are going to use that, we are going to use Gemini to build Friday, and this is gonna be so much awesome. And this project actually you can add up to your resume, which is gonna give you an unfair advantage over all of others. So are you guys excited? Are you guys excited to do all this crazy stuff with me? So before diving into the code, let us actually see what Friday is. Let me show you how it looks like, and let us just see it in action. Friday on.
Hello, Mr. Tony Stark. I'm Friday, here to assist you.
Hey Friday, what are the meetings I have this week?
Good day, Tony Stark. Here are the meetings you have scheduled for this week. Monday, 10 a.m. Meeting with Pepper Potts to discuss the new Stark Industries project. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Call with Dr. Bruce Banner to discuss potential collaborations. Wednesday, 9 a.m. Strategy meeting with the Avengers team to prepare for an upcoming mission. Thursday, 11 a.m. Meeting with the board of directors of Stark Industries. Friday, no meetings scheduled. All meetings will take place at Stark Tower unless otherwise specified. Please let me know if you have any questions or need to make any changes.
So guys, I hope you guys are excited. Wasn't it amazing? Wasn't Friday amazing? And we are actually now going to code it up. So guys, are you excited? I am getting very much excited to teach you all of this. You should be equally excited as I am. But before we start coding and jump into our computer screen, I have a few things to ask from you. I am starting this channel from a very ground level, right? So I want your initial support. Your initial support is very, very essential and crucial to me. So make sure you subscribe to this channel if you are new to our Swag Coder army. Make sure you like this video if you like this content, and if you want more such content to be brought to you in the field of generative AI, in the field of React, in the field of DSA and whatnot, we are going to bring many amazing things. This is just the episode 2, and hold your seatbelts tight. Now we are going to straight away dive into coding. Talk is cheap. Let us straight away jump into the code. So guys, before straight away jumping into the code, I would like to prepare the system design diagram, right? Because as you all know, system design diagram is very important. Planning is very important. Before you straight away start executing things, we need to plan things first, right? So we will be preparing high level and low level diagrams as we used to do in this playlist, right? So in our first video also, we first prepared the system design diagram and then we straight away jumped into the code, right? we will be doing the same kind of stuff here as well, right? We will be first preparing the system design diagram, and then we will be coding Friday out, right? So without further ado, let me take you to Excalibur and let us prepare the system design diagram. So guys, as you can see, I have already prepared the system design diagrams for you, right? So what actually we are having here, or even before that, starting it, what are the prerequisites that you need to know? That is an absolute zero, right? You don't need to have any prerequisite at all. Yes, you heard me right. You don't need to have any prerequisite. You don't need to know A of AI, M of ML, and we will be using so much AI things in this video that you will be amazed. You will be thinking that how did we use so much AI stuff without even knowing anything of it, right? So that is the beauty I am trying to bring in this Swax AI playlist, right? This is just the episode 2. We are going to do much more things, right? So first of all, we have our Iron Man over here, right? So Iron Man is nothing but we, the user. We are Iron Mans, right? So we will be speaking from our application, then it will be converted from speech to text, and you don't need to know how it is happening. We will be using an npm package called as React text to speech, which will be converting all our words into words, and we will be making call to Google Gemini, which is known as the request, right? We will be requesting Gemini for a response to our query, right? Next, what we are gonna do is the response that we got back from Google Gemini, we are actually going to convert it from text into speech again. But here we are not going to use any kind of npm package or any external library or a third party dependency. We will be using the web APIs. You know, the web is so much powerful itself. It gives us many things out of the box. It gives us WebRTC, it gives us speech synthesis and whatnot. We get so many things out of the box provided by the web itself. How cool is it? How awesome is it? And we are going to leverage that. We are going to use the same thing over here. Are you excited? And then whatever response we get, we are converting it into voice again using web APIs, and Friday is going to speak. Yes, my dear friend, we are going to do it that way. And if I come to the low level design part right now, so talking about the low level design, we will be having an app component, our typical app component, which stays at the top of the component hierarchy, right? We will be having this app component, and it will be having a single child this time. It will be having only one child, that is an input area, because our focus will be to build Friday to integrate Gemini with our application. We will be focusing more on that. We will be talking more on this, right? And we will be having one component, an extremely important component for API call, right, which will request the Gemini with our query. We will be doing some amount of prompt engineering, right? And then we will be getting some response from it, which will again be converted into voice via web APIs, right? So this is the simple system design diagram that we are going to follow throughout our coding. And let's just now dive into our VS Code and start coding Friday. So we are here in our file explorer, and let us just create one more folder, and let me call it Friday, right? And let me do one thing. Let me open Friday in Visual Studio Code. Okay, so Friday is now opened on Visual Studio Code. Now what is the next thing that we need to do? So the next thing we need to do is to set up everything, right? We have just created our folder, and now what I am gonna do is I am again heading towards Google Chrome, and I will straight away jump into Vite, right? So Vite, if you don't know, Vite is a templating engine that actually provides us with quick templates, quick start, so that we can get started with our React app real quick. Vite is fast, Vite is a beast, right? And Vite makes many things very easy for us. So we will be now opening our terminal, and I will run the command npm create Vite at latest, and I want that everything should be created in this folder only, hence I am putting a dot. And let me just drag it up, and we will be using React for the UI. And guys, I think that we should build it using TypeScript, right? Are you excited? Are you excited to use TypeScript in this while building our Friday? See, my dear friends, TypeScript gives your app immense power. You are bound to make less errors. It gives many things beforehand, right? It provides better type safety to your application, so you should be using TypeScript, right? So let us use TypeScript here. We are not using server components, hence I will go with only TypeScript. All set, all good. This is how fast Vite is, right? So I am gonna do npm I stands for install. Okay guys, so our app is installed, and we can check that by going into our app.tsx, and we can do one thing. We can say npm run dev, right? And let us hit enter, and it is saying that it is opened in localhost 5173, right? Cool. So our app is actually up and working, right? So we have created our React application, but this is just the start. Let me quickly remove all the unnecessary things that I want to remove it from here. I don't need anything at all. Okay guys, so we have cleaned up our app component, right? Now we will not be requiring app.css. I don't need any one of this. I don't need my index.css file either. I don't need the file content, but I need the file itself, right? And why I am doing so? Yes, you are right. We will be using Tailwind CSS over here, right? Are you guys excited to use Tailwind? So let me straight away jump. Or one more important thing, we will be using another library over here. Do you know what it is? It is known as Shadcn. So why Shadcn is so much cool? So why I like Shadcn over Material UI or Bootstrap? It's because Shadcn is highly configurable. It is not a package itself. Let me show you. Let me take you to the Shadcn website, and if you go to their website, so you know that you won't be finding any npm package called as Shadcn like you find in case of Bootstrap. You have React Bootstrap, right? You have MUI, right? But in case of Shadcn is not a dependency. It doesn't add any dependency to your project. You can just copy components from here and you can paste it into your project. Shadcn is built top of something known as Radix UI, and it actually is a awesome stuff. Shadcn is so much awesome because you don't need to compromise on anything while using Shadcn. You don't need to pull your hairs while using Shadcn. You don't need to think about, am I going to put exclamation important in front of everything to make the class name change? No, my dear friends. You can straight away use Tailwind classes in Shadcn, and we are going to do the same. You will be seeing all that in action. Don't you worry, my dear friend. Don't be afraid. I am here. I am going to explain you each one of the things, right? So let me click on get started, and what we need to do, let me go on to installation, and we are using Vite, right? We have already created the Vite app. So next two things is like I need to install Tailwind, right? So let me go over my terminal. Let me make it up. Let me split my terminal into bashes, and let me drag a bit over here, and cool. So we are going to paste that command. So it is going to install Tailwind CSS, auto prefixer and whatnot into our package, right? And we are going to go to the next command, which is tailwind init p -p, which is actually going to initialize Tailwind into our directory, right? So we have got our tailwind.config.js, right? And what is the next thing that we need to do? We need to do all those things. We need to paste all these things in our tsconfig.json file. So let us just go over there. tsconfig.json is over here. We have compiler options, and we need to put all these things over there, target and all. Okay, paste it. done and dusted. So it is asking us to install types, right? So let me tell you, types are going to be very much important over here because we are using TypeScript. We need the types actually which we will be using in our code, right? And Shadcn actually uses some of the types, so we need to install it. So I will again expand my terminal. Let me clear it out, right? And let me paste the command. Yes, I want to paste it. Okay, types is installed. Cool. Next, what it says it that you need to go to vite.config.ts and you need to basically replace all of the code that is written over here with the code that they are given. Cool. That is also done. That is also done. Then it says that Shadcn UI init, right? That thing we need to do, and we will copy the npm command. So we are going to execute that. Okay, so now it will ask us some questions. So I want to use the default style or the New York style. So I want to use the New York style, right? And let me pick stone over here, right? So it is now asking us where our global.css file is located. So it is actually asking us for the location of our common CSS file. In our case, it is index.css and it is located inside src slash index.css, right? So we are going to give this path. Next, it is asking us, would you like to use CSS variable for colors? I am planning to use like custom colors and backgrounds over here, so I am going with no. You can choose variables over here, no harm in it. Next, do you using tailwind prefix or something like that? No, we are not using. Where is your tailwind config.js located? It is in the same directory, right? It is over here, tailwind.config.js. So I'm going with it. And import alias and all, I want to make it as it is. So next it is asking, are you using React server component? Obviously no, we are not using them. So now it is asking that it needs to do some configuration. It needs to add some configuration into our components.json file. So we will be giving it permission to proceed by typing yes, and let me show you. It is done. It is done. So the installation process of Vite+Tailwind+Shadcn is done, and it was that easy. Yes, it was that easy, right? We have done everything in a blink of an eye. Wasn't it amazing? It is going to be epic. You are going to have much more fun. Let us do one thing. Let me add a class name over here. So if I go and say, for example, I do text red 400, right? Let me see if it is showing over here or not. Yes, our text, if you can see, it is in red color. The next thing I want to make sure is if our Shadcn is properly initialized or not, and how to do it. We will be using a Shadcn component. Yes, we will be adding a Shadcn component into our project, and if you look carefully, it starts with the command npx. Now what is the difference between npm and npx? Npm is actually installing a third-party package, a npm library to be precise, into your project. So npm actually adds dependency to your project. It adds a third-party package into your project. But npx, what it does is that npx stands for execute. It actually executes something. So what it will do, Shadcn has already some pre-built component. It is just going to copy and paste it into our project. Let me show you by taking you to the button component. So guys, if you see, it first gives us some code which says how we can actually use this button into our code, and next if we go down, it says all the imports and all, and it says that how we can install it. We can install it via CLI, or a manual installation can also be done. So you need to make a button.tsx file, and then you can paste all this code that is given over here into that file. And you need to also install this dependency, this Radix UI, on top of which the Shadcn is built in, right? But we will be keeping it simple. We will be using the CLI itself. So let me copy the npm command and let me go into our app. Let me expand my terminal. It is looking messy. Let me clear it out and let me paste all those things. So you see it is installing button and our button is installed. So if I now go to this component/UI folder, we can see a button component. All this code has been copied and pasted from Shadcn, right? So we can straight away come over here, and instead of hi, what I am going to do over here is I am going to import button. So where you say this component/UI/button, hit click on it. Say for example I am just going with hi, and let us see what it is saying. Okay, you see this button has been added to our UI. So we can say that our installation was absolutely complete. Right now, write me in the comments, are you feeling excited? Are you feeling excited? Are you having fun or not? And let us now just code Friday up. Let us write its UI code. Okay guys, so let us start by modifying our app.tsx component. We will be styling it. So I am removing the button component. I don't need it for now. We will see if we require it in the future. We will be adding it at that time. What I will be requiring, what I am thinking of is to add a good background image, right? So what I will do, I will straight away jump into my Chrome browser and I will type Iron Man Friday background, and let's see if we can find any kind of background related to it. Yes, there are a lot of backgrounds. So I am thinking of, so this looks cool, right? So this is really looking amazing. I am thinking of taking this background image, and also this logo also looks fine, right? So let me do one thing. Let me go ahead and let me download these things first, and then we will be using these things in our app itself, right? Okay guys, so as you can see, I have pasted these two images into my assets folder, and I have just downloaded them from the place I had shown you, from the Google search itself, right? Don't worry if you don't get these images in the right dimension. You can find the link to the GitHub, which will be attached to this description box of this video, right? And you can download all the assets, all the codes from the GitHub itself, right? So let us now dive into coding, and let us see how we can style our app component. So what I am planning to do is to add that background image, right? That background image which we have just imported into our assets folder. So what are the options I have with me to add a background image? So in CSS, you know, we can add background image in different ways. Like one is by using your inline styling, right? We can directly use the style attribute, the style tag, and we can add our background image there. And the other possibility which I can think of is to use our index.css file, and we can give this app component a class name, this div a class name, and after that we can attach the background image to it. But what actually I will suggest you, that if you are using one library like Tailwind, like Bootstrap, right? So you try to do everything in that only, so that our code base actually become consistent, right? So that actually our code base is consistent. We should always try to keep our code base consistent. What do I mean by consistency is that if we are following one approach, we should try to do everything with that approach only, so that we can make cleaner code, right? So that our code base actually becomes clean, actually it gets clean, right? So I will be using Tailwind only. Let me tell you that you can add background images in Tailwind using backticks, but you have a great option in Tailwind to do so. See guys, these are some React specific stuffs that I am talking about. If you are not interested, you can just skip this part. But for those people who actually know some bit of React and have some experience of styling and all, it is for them. So guys, if you come across the tailwind.config.js, actually you have a keyword called extend, where you can actually extend the default styles that are being given by the Tailwind itself. So what I am planning to do is I am planning to actually extend the property of background, right? So if you type over here as a background, and you can see that you have a property named as background image, and you can actually extend that. What do I mean by extending is that Tailwind gives some of the things by default, by out of the box, and we can actually extend some properties of it by our predefined or our custom styles, right? So what I am going to do over here is I am going to add a key value pair in this extend thing, right? So I am going to add a key value pair named as Friday. So I am doing this, and now I have to define its value inside string. So its value will be an URL. So it will be exactly like how you defined your styles in style attribute, right? Or in your CSS file, you use a URL property, right? So I will be giving the path now, right? I will be giving the path now to the URL. Okay, so now let us give the path to the URL, and the path is that I have my assets, right? And inside my assets, I actually have, let me move ahead, and its name is friday.png, which is our actually background image. So let me type it friday.png, and yes. And now let me come to my app component and let me see if I use the shorthand BG, which is actually predefined by Tailwind, I should be able to see by running control and space what actually properties I do have. So these are all the predefined properties by Tailwind. But if I say Friday, see, we actually have seen and we are able to see actually the custom property that we added, which is BG Friday, right? And apart from that, let me do one more thing too. So let me give it a width of full, let me give it a height of DVH. So what DVH means? Dynamically calculated view height, or the dynamic view height. It actually calculates the view height dynamically, what is the maximum available space or what is the available space in our current view height, right? So next I will add a property called BG no repeat. Like I don't want my background to repeat, and also I wanted to cover the entire view height and view width, right? So this will be my primary style, and inside that I will be adding a container. So inside that I will be adding a container, and I am planning to build an overlay on top of this image, right? So that it becomes a bit dimmed. So I will be taking another div for this reason. And let me add a class name to this div also. And what I will do is, like, I will first reduce the opacity, right? So I will be reducing the opacity to 75, right? Opacity 75. Then what I will do, I will make it to span across the entire screen. Then what I will do, I will make its width to be full as well, and I will be giving it a gradient. So BG gradient is your class to go, right? So BG gradient, and I will be first, let me do VG gradient to right, and I will be giving a gradient from black to, I will be giving it to gray 800, right? It will be giving our background a bit nice gradient. Okay, cool. So we have done till this, now. So now that we have done till now, let me make a main tag, and inside this main tag I will give it a class name. So what I am trying to do is that the logo that I have already taken inside my assets, I want beneath that logo I want to place my input box. So let me give this as this main content as a flex, right? And let me give it as justify center, and let me give it an item center. So this is the equivalent thing for your justify content center and your align item center, right? So this actually does the same thing over here using Tailwind. So next, let me give it a height full, let me give flex call so that it actually spans the entire column, right? Now I can straight away go ahead and I can use the img tag, and I will be putting an src in order to import the logo that I have just saved into my assets folder. And what will be the logo path? So what I will do is I will go over here and I will import the logo. So dot slash assets slash our Friday logo.png, right? And we will be using this Friday logo over here. Okay, so this Friday logo has been pulled over here. Let me give it an alt tag as well, and alt will be my Friday, right? Friday or Friday logo, anything you wish, doesn't matter at all. Okay, then what I am going to do is, so if you remember about the system design diagram, right, we will be making an input area component in which all my input logic, all my text to speech, speech to text, and my API call I am planning to put it in, right? So input area, this is a component that I have not made yet, so let me just go ahead and make it input area dot tsx, and let me put it a rafce, right? I don't need the React import. Yep, import area is defined, and let me just pull it in. Cool. So now let's have a look what we have built, right? So I will be going ahead. So guys, yes, we have this amazing background image. It is a bit dimmed, right? And we have our Friday logo in the center. So far so good, so far so good. Whatever we were expecting, we have got that. Let me now style this input area component, and I will be styling it very fast. Okay, so let us come to this div. So guys, first let me add a class name to this div, and what is the class name I'm going to give it? I'm going to give it width full, and I'm going to give it flex, and I'm going to give it flex column, so that all the elements spans across the column itself. Then I'm going to do it as items center. Okay, and this will be our main div, and we will be having a child div inside this, which will be holding all our input containers and all, right? So inside that I will be again adding a class. Let me give it a flex, then I will be giving it a width full, then I will be giving it as max width, and I want that my max width should span across the screen size of medium devices. So this is the particular class name which I am targeting, right? And I am going to give it an item center also, so that's it actually center aligns the items. And I will be giving one more thing, and what is it? I will be giving it a space across the horizontal axis, so say for example space x3, so that it has some space around with it. Okay, cool. Okay, so now what I am planning to do is I will be heading towards Shadcn, right? And I want to bring a input component over here. See guys, we could have used the input JSX element also, but I want to show you the power of Shadcn, right? How good components, how much styled components we can get from actually this thing called as Shadcn. So let me head towards it. Let me actually go towards the input component, right? So here is this input component. So it is saying us that you need to first install it. Let me copy the npm command to install it. Let me split my terminal again, split it across bashes. Never mind, we will do it like this only. Okay guys, so as you can see that we have actually copy pasted our input component, and it is being pasted inside this component slash UI. Okay, so let me just import this thing. So import from component slash UI, right? Okay, and our input will be there. Let me see if it is there or not by going to here. Yes, we have actually got an input element, but I need to style it obviously and see. And guys, let me show you how easy it is to style a Shadcn component. And you know, this is the reason why I actually love Shadcn. It is very easy to tweak the components on Shadcn using only Tailwind classes. So your code actually looks very clean. So what I am going to do is I am going to give it a padding, say for example padding 10. Then what I am planning to do is I am going to give it a border 2 to give it a thick kind of border, and border color will be border sky, and 300 will be a good shade, right? Then what I am going to do is its text should also look a bit white, so I'm going to give it a text white, and let me give it text large, and let me give it a view height of 50 view width, right? So width is also given to it, and let me give its type also. So type will be nothing but text, right? And I will be giving it a placeholder, and I will say speak, or let me say type or speak to Friday. So we can either type or we can also do speaking, or we will be using text to speech, speech to text, and all those stuffs. So for that reason, and what else I am planning to do over here is actually I am planning to give it some value, or before. Okay guys, so now that we have our text component, our input component, actually I want to track its value also. Let me use a state for it, and there is a reason why I am not using refs and I am using state, and the reason I will come to it shortly. So input val, and let me give it set input val, and let me set it, let me give the initial state as use state, and I will be using null as the initial state, right? I don't want any value, and in order to bind this value, this is also known as two-way binding, by the way, we will be using the value attribute, and I will be giving the value of input val, right? And in order to actually track the value, okay guys, so in order to change its value, I want to add an on change listener to it. But before that, let us see. It is saying that the type null is not assignable to type string. So this is something that TypeScript is giving us, right? If you were using vanilla JS, you won't be getting this error, right? But what TypeScript is saying, that it is giving us type safety. Let me tell you why. So we have used the use state as null, the initial state as null, but here you are trying to give value attribute as, so here you are trying to assign null to value, but input element must accept value which will be of string type. So TypeScript is giving us error that you cannot use null over here. You have to either type a string over here, you have to give the initial state as an empty string. So how cool is it? We get the power of type safety by using TypeScript, and we are actually less prone to make errors, right? So this is a cool stuff, and that is why we are using TypeScript over here. And I will be adding an on change listener, so I will be getting the e, and let me set the input val as, set input val as e dot target dot value, right? Okay, cool. So we have binded our input. Let us see. Okay, our input box looks cool. If I type in something, I can type in, I can remove it. Okay, so far so good, so far so good, right? Now what is the next thing I want to do? I want to add a mic icon over here, and I also want to add a send button. So in order to add an icon, you already know what is my favorite. So in order to use an icon, I will be using React Lucid, right? Lucid. So I will be going over React Lucid, and I will be installing Lucid over here because Lucid actually provides us with a hell lot of icons, right? So that is the reason I'm planning to use it over here. npmi React Lucid, we have installed it, and let us just now search for a mic icon. Okay, so this thing looks cool. Okay, I can just copy the JSX, and I can actually import, or I can actually use the JSX over here. But before that, I need to import it from Lucid React, right? And I think I should be able to see the mic icon. Yes, but if you can see that it is there, but it is actually in black color, so you might not be seeing it properly. So guys, let me now add some class names to this, right? React Lucid is also highly customizable using Tailwind classes only, right? So let me use text sky, and what set should I use? Let me use 600, and let me give it a size, let me give it a size of 36, say for example, and that's basically it. Let me see. Okay, it looks cool, but also I want to add something. I want to add a background to it. So let me put this mic into a background, right, into a div, and I will style this div. I will just a moment, I will style this div So I will be adding a class name to this div. So what class name I actually am trying to give to this div is, I will be doing P5, I will be doing BG sky, and let's say for example 200, then I will be giving it a style of rounded full, right? And cursor pointer. That is very, very important. Let us see. Okay, looks cool, looks good to me. And let me just do the send button also. So let me do the same thing for the send button also, right? So I will be using the button component. So we have already added the button component, right? So I will be using this only. Okay, let me first import it, button. And what will be the text to this button? I will be using the text called send, right? Send. And I will also give it some class name, right? So first of all, let me give it a type of button, type equal to button, right? And class name I am planning to give it as P10, then BG sky 300, then I am going to give it a text of black, and then I want that whenever I am hovering over this button, what should happen is text should change to text gray, and the shade is 800, and what else, and I want that whenever I am hovering, the the background should change to like the background should change to sky 200. Let me toggle the word run. Let me add cursor pointer to this also, and what I am trying to do is I am giving it some padding or some margin from the left. So ML3 is also what I want to do. Okay, so far so good. Let us see. Okay, the send button actually looks good, right? So our send button is there, our mic icon is there. So now I want to show some output in the bottom, right? I want some output to be shown in the bottom whenever we are doing a query to Gemini, right? So let me put it inside a div, and the div will be having a class name of, say for example, I will be giving text sky 200. I will be giving it as a text center, then I will be giving it as max height to be, say for example 32, right? Then I will be giving it at margin top as 10. I will be giving it as text to be large. I want my width to span across 5x6. Then I will be giving it as overflow auto. Cool. So let me put some dummy text over here, for example. So let me put in lorem 30 over here, right? So some dummy text has been put. Okay, it looks cool to me. Okay, so what else should we have right now? So guys, I think that our basic layout building is actually done. Let us now straight away jump into the functionality itself, right? So what I am trying to do over here is that whenever I will be typing something over here, be it using mic or be it I am typing it manually, I will be sending using this send button, and then the request should go to Gemini, and after that the response should come to us, and then we will be converting it from text to speech, right? But before doing text to speech and speech to text, what I am trying to explain you is that our engine is going to be the same. What do I mean by this engine? So we will be giving some input and we will be getting some output, and this is our engine actually, or our main concept. This is going to be the same. So before adding text to speech and speech to text, let us first integrate the API with the plain text format itself, and then we will gradually build speech to text and text to speech as an overlay, as an enhancement on top of it. So in order to do that, what I am going to do it, right, I am going to make a folder known as API, right? And inside API, I am going to make a function called, say for example, get Gemini response.ts, and it will be actually our function responsible for the API call, right? And before even doing that, what I am intending to do is on submit of this button, right? So whenever I am clicking on this button, right, I want to add an handler to this. So I will be making a submit or I will be calling it handle submit. Cool. And let me make this handle submit actually. So I will be saying const handle submit will be equal to something called as e, right? E is actually the event that we are getting, and the first thing I want to do is, or see for example, so here actually we are using a button and we are not using the form element, right? So it will not actually send the response to the server, or it is not going to refresh actually our what do you call it, so it is not actually going to refresh our site, right? So we actually don't need to do event default over here. So what I am going to do over here is, this input value is actually containing the value of the input that the user is typing, right? So what I am going to do is, I will be using a try catch block, because I'm intending to make this function as async, because we will be doing an asynchronous call to the Gemini API, right? So I will be using try catch in order to, make sure that everything runs fine and we catch any kind of error that is happening. And what I am intending to do over here is, I will be doing const response, or res will be equal to get Gemini response, and we will be passing our input value, whatever input value we currently have or the user has typed or spoken, to this function. And this will be an async function as well. I will be doing a wait, and let me just console log it for the moment, Gemini response, right? And if we get any error while calling the API, I am straight away console.error, and I will be saying error and the error object straight away. Cool. So we have built our handler function. Let us now build the main function which will be responsible to make API call. So I am going to do const get Gemini response, and I have to export it also. So let me do it as export const Gemini response. This will be an async function also, right? And it will be making the API call, right? And async function is going to get an input, and we have to specify its type, because we are using Typescript. It will be of type string. String should be in capital, string type, right? So now we are going to make an API call to Gemini. Let me show you how we can make an API call to Gemini. So straight away, I will be taking you to AI Studio, right? Google AI Studio. Let us head towards it. I tried with Google AI Studio is the link that you have to go from here, and here you have to click on this option which says get API key in Google AI Studio, right? So click on it. We actually saw this in our first episode also. I told you that ChatGPT is actually a bit expensive because it gives you some amount of free credits, but when those credits expires, actually you have to buy them. But you know the best thing about Google AI Studio, everything is free over here. At least you can send the responses, right? You can get the responses, you can make the API calls, and they are all free for now. If in future, if you are seeing this video, it might be paid, but for now it is free. You can also insert image and query on based on this image. You can also generate image also over here, and all this things actually comes in the free version itself. Don't you worry, we are actually going to dive deep into image generation, giving image input and all. In this Wax AI series, we will be doing all this crazy stuffs. Are you excited? Are you feeling excited? Let us now straight away go into get API key, right? So over here, you can do what you can do is you can create an API key. I have already created an API key, and this creation process is very much simple. You can just search for any kind of project, and you can basically create a key out of it, which will be shown to you. Copy that key, okay, and we will do the further steps over here. So I hope you have copied the key over here. Let me make a .env file. Why I am making the .env file, guys? Because I don't want my key to be exposed, right? So in order to do that, I am making the .env file and storing the key in my environment variables. Okay. So what I am going to do is I'm going to name it as Gemini API key, and let me paste the key over here. Let me go over here and paste the key. So unlike ChatGPT or OpenAI, where actually you have to copy the key first, and if you somehow forgot to copy the key and you go there second time, you won't be getting an access to the key. You have to create a new key. But here actually you can come back and you can copy your key once again, right? So that is actually cool and amazing, right? So let me paste my key over here, and I will also be doing Gemini API URL, because we will be making the request to an URL also. I am storing that URL also in my .env file. So what is the URL actually we need to make an API call to? So if you see the curl command, right, actually -h stands for the headers. So -d actually stands for what you need to pass in the body, and this URL is actually what you need to, and this URL is the place you need to make your post request. So that is why actually you read this curl commands, right? So let me first copy this and store it inside my environment variable inside this Gemini API URL. Cool, so far so good, right? So let us come to our getGeminiResponse.ts file, and inside our getGeminiResponse file, what we are going to do, we are now going to do a API call, right? We are going to make an API request. So we could have used the native fetch also, or we can actually use a third-party library like Axios also. So third-party libraries like Axios actually streamlines a lot of tasks which you have to do manually. Actually, in case of native fetch API, you have to deserialized or convert that response that you are getting from the API into JSON. Axios actually handles all of these things by itself. So you need not to worry about all those stuffs. Axios is going to manage all those stuffs for us, right? So I am thinking to use Axios over here, because you should be aware of all the tools that are available in the market. So let me install Axios by running npm i Axios, and I will be doing it --save to save it as a dependency, as a dev dependency. And let us wait till it's cool. So our Axios is now installed. Let us make an API call, and I will show you how easy it is to make an API call with the help of Axios. So you actually import the Axios and actually you call it, and what Axios takes as a parameter is an object, right? So inside this object, actually you have to give some parameters to it, right? So some key value pairs to be precise. So first thing is the URL. So the URL is what we have pasted in our environment file. So let me use import .meta.env this thing. So let me copy this URL and let me paste it over here. This is how you import your environment variables while you are using Vite. If you are using create react app or something, the process is a bit different over there, but in case of Vite, it is how you do it, right? And next we need to specify the method. So what method actually we're trying to do over here, and it is post, right? What is the next thing? The next thing is actually the body, which comes in this -d in curl. So let me copy this object and we are going to send it as it is in our body. So let me define the body, and the body is actually defined by the data key over here, and I am going to paste the whole thing over here, right? And if you see over here, this Gemini URL is actually asking for key as your API key. So let me do one thing over here. So guys, one more thing, if you have observed that this Gemini endpoint URL is actually asking for a key. So let me remove this your API key, and what I am going to do over here instead is, so I am concatenating the Gemini API URL with the key, and I am going to pull that key from this env file itself. So let me copy the name so that there is no typo, and let me put it over here. Cool. So this thing is done. This thing is done. And let us now just see if we get a response. So in order to get a response, I will store it inside a variable called response. Right, and I will be using await, async await. You can also use then catch if you want. I am using async await. So if you want to make an API call in your language or your technology that you are using, be it Flutter, be it React Native, be it Android, you can use it similar way, right? It is just an API call that you have to make. You don't need to worry about a model, right? So machine learning models are actually became very much easier to access in this GenAI era. That is what I am trying to show you. Okay, you can use it in your technology, in your tech stack, whatever you are willing to do. So I will be doing a console.log and let us see if this response is actually coming or not. Right, let me make it as response, right? Oops, typo. And let me import this also, right? Let me import it properly. So I will going to do, so I have imported it. Let us now see it in action. And in place of input, in place of text, what I am going to pass it is the input string, whatever I have passed. We will be coming to the prompt engineering part as well, that how we can write a good prompt over here, how we can give it a persona, how it can assume things, right? But before that, let me just show it over here. So guys, let me pull in the inspect and the developer tools over here, and let me show you the console, and we will be making an API call. So let me tell you, hi, this is a test command, reply with text successful. Let us see if it replies us with text successful or not. So what is it saying? That request fail, error bad request 404 not found. It is saying that our URL is actually not found. Why so? Okay guys, so what we need to do is, in all our environment variable, we have to start the names by using the Vite keyword, right? In order that Vite actually understands them as an environment variable. So I have to add this thing over here. I will be adding Vite Gemini API key and this thing. Let me just refresh my page and let me do it a test. Okay, let me send it as test only, and let us see what happens. Network, is the network call gone? Yes guys, so actually we have our network call has gone over here. If I just hide this console, you can see that our network call has gone over here. If I just pull it up, so guys, as you can see that our network call was successful and our integration is actually successful. And if I show you in the console, so we have got an object from Gemini. If I expand those inside data, inside candidates, inside candidates of 0. So guys, as you can see that we have successfully made our API call and we have got this object over here. Cool. So our API integration is successful, right? So now let us see how we can extract and where actually this response is. So if I take you over here and if I go to the API quick start guide now, and let us see where actually I am getting the responses, right? So you can learn or you can read all this documentation, what they are trying to say. There are all the safety measures and all that you need to follow, right? But where actually I am getting my response, that is the most important thing, right? So guys, if you come over here and if you expand this data, you actually won't be able to see any thing, right? Because we have not given it a good prompt, right? So in case of Gemini, you have to actually give the prompt in a refined way, in a refined manner, right? And that you can actually call a drawback or a little bit of drawback of Gemini at the moment, but in future it is going to improve, right? Because ChatGPT and Gemini are actually each other's competitor, and as they grow, right, and they are going to compete with each other. This is gonna happen that sometimes ChatGPT is giving you good responses, sometimes Gemini is giving you good responses. But in order to get our response, what we have to do now is to give it a good prompt, a good input. In our case, we will be refining that prompt later on, and let me give it an input name as hello, how are you doing? and let me make an API call again. So you see the status was 200, and what we got over here is inside we actually have something called as candidates. Inside that we have a 0, inside that we have a content, and actually we have a part over here, and inside that we have an object inside which we have a text. So it's actually long kind of list. So in order to extract this text, actually you don't need to pull your hairs, right? You can directly do one thing. You can do a right click over here and copy property path, right? You can directly come over here, and in place of response you can actually add a check over here and a null check over here, and you can extract this thing. And let us just refresh everything once again, and let me pull my dock to left side. Okay, and let me do one thing, that is let me speak it to it, or we have not actually added text to speech. So let me type it, and let me ask is what is the capital of India, right? And if we send it, let us see, our network call has gone and 200, right? And what have we got over here is undefined. Okay, strange why it is coming as undefined. Okay, so guys, actually the problem over here is it is giving us a response, but the thing is that we are using the same thing over here also, right? And we are not returning anything over here. So this is actually getting printed over here where we are writing Gemini response. It is giving us undefined because we are not returning anything from here. So instead of console log, I have actually tested that it is coming as okay. So let me return this straight away. Okay, and we have actually returned it. Why it is giving me an error? Yep, that is done, right? Input area, and actually we will be getting this thing inside res. Okay, so in order to show this in our terminal or in our UI, what I am going to do is I am going to make a state. So I am going to make it as Gemini response and set Gemini response, right? And I will be using the useState hook again, and initially it has to be an empty string, but whenever I got my response, you straight away populate it with the res that I am going to send. Not in string, not in string, definitely not in string. And if we get an error while doing the steps, you can directly specify. I'm going to hard code it by saying oops, something went wrong, right? As simple as that. So now let us do one thing. In place of this lorem text, in place of this placeholder text, what actually I am going to do is I am straight away going to, so I am going to paste the Gemini response in the curly braces because we are using some dynamic content using JavaScript. Okay, so let us now do one thing. Let us now refresh it and let us speak. What is the capital of England, say for example, right? Let me send it and let us see what it gives us. London, Gemini response, and it has come as London. Cool. So our API integration is successful right now. We can say it is successful. Our engine is actually built. Now we need to enhance it with text to speech and speech to text. Are you excited or not? Write me down in the comments right now. So guys, we will be using this package called as React Speech Recognition, which will be recognizing our voice, our speech, and it will be converting it to words. So we don't need to know actually how it works. We will be just using this package. So without further ado, let me first install it. And while it is being installed, let me show you how to use it. So we will be using a hook. Hook is a special kind of function given by React. You can think it like that, right? It actually helps us to modularize our code. So actually someone has written the code for this speech to text, and it has, or he has actually imported it via a hook called as speech recognition. So we can directly import or directly use this speech recognition in our project. So let me first copy these two lines blindly. I am copying these two lines, and let me just paste it over here, right? Or let me do one thing. Let me paste it over here just after our state calls, right? Our states. So this use speech recognition is something that I need to import. Let me get a suggestion. It is giving me no suggestion. Why so? Let me use the import statements from here itself. Okay, so we will be coming over here and React speech recognition. Okay, don't worry about all these red lines that it is giving. My editor has gone a bit mad. It is not able to understand that I have already installed this package, but it will work fine. Okay, trust me when I say that. Okay, it will work perfectly fine. This sometimes happens with code editors like VS Code. They are not that much smart till now. Okay, so how we will be using it is the thing that we should focus on, right? So what it is saying, I am importing some things from this use speech recognition. Okay, this thing is called as destructuring. If you don't know it, don't worry, just think it like that. It is giving us some functions or some things in return, and we are just using them. So we are using transcript, which will be giving us the transcript of what we are going to speak. We will see that in action. It is giving us a boolean variable called as listening, which will be telling us if currently the speech recognition is listening our voice or not, right? Then it is giving us something called as reset transcript, that actually, as the name suggests, resets that entire transcript, and it actually gives another boolean variable which says that browser support speech recognition. So suppose if your browser doesn't recognize speech recognition, what it is going to do is it is just doing an early return. It is not going to dig into all this codes. In place of that, it is going to return it early, right? Okay, so this is the thing, a very easy thing, easy peasy, right? And what we are going to do is now, and what we are going to do actually now is that we will be coming across here, and what I am going to do is that whenever I am clicking on this mic icon, my voice should be loaded, right? My voice should be audible. So in order to do that, what actually I am going to do over here is, so guys, I want that whenever I click on this mic, actually my voice should be audible, and this use speech recognition hook should actually start listening. So if you see, we actually have something called as start listening and stop listening. If I go over here, so it says that speech recognition dot start listening and stop listening, and we are actually importing this speech recognition from this React speech recognition hook, right? We have we have actually imported this speech recognition. Now let us see it in action. So whenever I click on click, right, on click, I am going to do speech recognition dot, what I am going to do is I am going to start listening, right? So on click, this should happen, and what it is saying, it is giving us some errors because TypeScript actually doesn't know what variable actually you are assigning to on click. On click should actually be assigned an handler, but it doesn't know if you are assigning an handler or not. So for now, to avoid these errors, let me force type it, right? Let me typecast it as any. So you just ignore these things. This is what it means, right? So speech recognition does start listening, and also I want to stop this listening, right? I want to stop this listening. How I want to do it is, let me do one thing while this is listening, right? So while this is listening, I actually should render a different icon. So I am going to do is, I am going to use the listening variable that I am getting from the speech recognition, and if it is listening, then we should not show this mic icon, right? Instead of that, I should get one more icon from here. So I am going to get a square from here, right? So I am going to get a square from here. So this is the square I am trying to give it. Okay, let us just copy the JSX code over here, and it is not listening. So let me give it a square. So let me import this square over here, and what I am going to do is I am actually giving it, let me copy all those things from here and give it to it also. But in case of it, I want to fill it, right? I want to fill it. So guys, let me add a in place of text sky 600, let me give it a text red of 600, right? And let us see this in action. Let us go over here, Vite. Okay, so guys, if you now head on to the browser, you will see an error which says that regenerator runtime is actually not defined. Now what is this regenerator runtime? Actually, this package known as React speech recognition needs this as a dependency to be installed in order to run it, right? So let us install it by using npm I and regenerator runtime, right? So what it will do, it will install this, and in order to use this, so guys, I have successfully installed the regenerator runtime, right? And I have also imported it on top of this React speech recognition import. So make sure you import it on top of React speech recognition so that it gets imported first, then our React speech recognition gets imported. So that way you can make sure that everything will work perfectly fine. And now let me go over our application. Let me reload it, and cool, that error is gone, and you should see something like this where I will be, so now I can click on it and I can speak, and it should get converted into the text. So you would be getting an option to allow the speech recognition, and you have to click on it, allow, and I have already done it, so it is not showing for me, right? So what we need to do is, like, when we are clicking on it, it should stop also, right? So in order to do that, where we have imported the square icon, in place of start listening, we have to call the method known as stop listening, right? So start listening and stop listening. Cool, this much part is done. Now our main concern is how can we generate actually the transcript on the go, on live, right? So you actually can see that this transcript is given to us already by the speech recognition, use speech recognition hook, right? So I am going to use it, and I am going to do one thing. If I am listening, then what you need to do is, whenever I am listening, you make it or you set it to whatever the transcript is being given. If I am not listening, you save it or you make it whatever value is input val containing, right? So that way, using ternary operators, I am doing this. Now the other thing is that how we will be getting the transcript value when we will be sending this to our Gemini, right? Because right now we are just showing it, but we also need to set it, and where we are setting all our input using this thing known as set input val, right? We need to use that. So I am going to run an effect whenever my listening is actually changing. Listening is a boolean variable, and it gets to true whenever I am speaking. How do we run effects? You are absolutely right. We will be using the use effect hook. So use effect, if you don't know, use effect actually runs a side effect for us, right? Whenever we want some effect or some function or some piece of code to be run on change of some certain variables, we make use of use effect. So I want use effect to listen. So this thing in the array is known as dependency array. So I am adding listening, this property, as a dependency because I want something to run whenever listening is being changed. And what is it? This is like I want to do set input val to whatever transcript we have, right? So this thing I want to do. So it will make sure that our input val, which is eventually getting into this get Gemini response as a argument, so it is being passed whatever transcript is being generated, right? So this is the simple thing I want to do over here, right? And I think it's pretty much it. Let us now test our application. Let me load it once, and let me do one thing. Let me click on this mic icon and speak something. What is the weather like today? Let me click on the send button and let us see what happens. Is our network call gone or not? Yes, it has gone. And yes, guys, as you can see that it is done, right? So our text or our voice is actually converted into text, and that has gone as an input to the get Gemini response function, and it has given us this answer, right? Wasn't it amazing? Wasn't it cool? And how easy it was to use speech to text, right? So guys, now that we have incorporated speech to text in our application, I want to show another usefulness of this library. But before even doing that, we have also got a thing called reset transcript, right? So if you notice right now that when I speak something over here, if I click on it and if I speak, the captions are getting generated, but when I click on it, we have to manually delete all of them to make it clear. I don't want that. I want that it should be cleared with an icon or with a button. So in order to do that, I will again go to React Lucid, and so I will search for an icon called as rotate, and this thing looks cool, right? This rotate ccw. Let me copy that JSX, right? And what I am planning to do is inside this input, this icon should come up, and whenever I click on this icon, my input box should be clear. As simple as that. So I want this rotate cc to be shown over here, right? This rotate ccw, right? And it is being imported. Make sure you import it. I will be adding some class name sizes and all to it. Let me give it a size, same 36, okay? And let me give it a class name, and class name, what I am thinking is, let me give it absolute so that it fits inside the input, right? So absolute. Then I will give it a color of text sky 300, like text sky 300. Left, let me give it something known as 58%. Guys, I am not wasting much time today in styling, because our main focus is the integration, right? And cursor pointer. Okay, so this is done, but I don't want to show it every time. I basically want to show it when actually I am not listening. So whenever the user has stopped the listening, then actually that transcript has been generated live, right? So I will be doing when not listening, and one more condition, that our input box should be empty, right? So and our user input should be empty, so not user input, so or not input val, right? So what it is doing actually, so what I am meant to say is that whenever I am not listening and my input value is non-empty, means I have generated something, because in order to reset the transcript or clear the input, you need to have something in the input, right? So I am also checking that condition also. When I am not listening and there is nothing in the input, then only use this icon. And what should happen on click of this icon, let us add the functionality also. On click of this icon, this should happen, that I will be using a callback over here, and it should call the reset transcript, right? Reset transcript, this should be called. And also our input val, this our input box should also be empty, so set input val to our empty string. So this is the simple thing I want to do over here. So let us test this thing out. So hello, this is a test command for it. Okay, it has not come. Okay, so there has to be input val. I have mistyped it. So when we are not listening and there is actually some input val, okay, so the condition I had given was wrong. So let me tell, yes, so it is out there. If I click on it, input gets clear. Cool, awesome. We have done till now, and we have come almost to the end. The only thing now remains is the voice. So yes, my dear friend, we are going to give Friday voice now. Now, in order to do that, or even before doing that, I also want to add something else. I want that when Friday is speaking, there should be a cool icon or a cool GIF kind of thing, a cool thing which you might have seen in case of Google Assistant, in case of Siri, right? Which actually gives us a good user interface, a good graphics, and it actually tells the user that it is speaking or something. So in order to do that, I will be using a package called React Siri Wave, right? I will be using this npm package called React CD-Wave, right? This is a built-in package of npm. Let me copy it and let me open my bash and let me install it. npm I React CD-Wave. As simple as that, we will be doing this thing, right? So let it install. So guys, we have successfully installed React CD-Wave, right? Now let me come to the bottom and let me make another div and let me give it a class of y, say for example 3, and I will also be giving max height of say for example I will be giving a height of 10. Okay, and I will be importing the CD-Wave, React CD-Wave, right? React CD-Wave from React CD-Wave. Okay, so now we have imported React CD-Wave. It also comes with something called as theme, and I want the iOS 9 theme because the iOS 9 theme is really so this iOS 9 theme is actually really cool, and you will see this in action whenever I go over here, and you see how cool is it, how awesome is it. It is now showing over here. But do I want to show it all the time? No, my dear friends, we don't want to show it all the times. So I want to show it only when our Friday is picking, right? So in order to do that, what we need to do, we need to incorporate speech synthesis or our text to speech into it. Now in order to do that, I won't be using any kind of npm package this time. I will be using the web APIs. Web is itself very much powerful. It gives us a lot of things, and this speech synthesis is actually one of them. So what I am going to do is, if I head over to the Chrome browser and if I show you web speech synthesis, right, with speech API, this one I want to go. So you can actually read the documentation of the web speech API in the MDN docs, right? How to use it. I am going to make these things all simple, but there is a function known as speech recognition, which we will be extensively using in case of our app. But what we need to do beforehand is, before we go ahead and use speech synthesis, there are some voices, right? There are some voices or predefined voices which are given to us. We need to load those voices first. So how to load a thing or how to do a thing when the component gets rendered to the screen or when our function gets called for the first time? Yes, you are right. We will be using use effect once again, and this time we will be giving it an empty dependency array. So what does this empty dependency array will do is, it will run only once and only when our component gets rendered or our functional component gets called, right? So what we will be doing over here, so we will be using the speech synthesis API, and you don't need to do any package install for it. As you can see, I have not installed any package for it, and I am getting suggestions out of the box, right, by VS Code itself. So speech synthesis you can directly use. You don't need to install any package for it. So I will be calling a particular function known as get voices in order to load all the voices from speech synthesis, right? So this get voices is what I want. Now in order to use those voices, what I need to do is, whenever I am getting the response from Gemini, what I need to do is, I need to add some lines of code over here, right? So what I need to do over here is, I need to create a speech synthesis utterance instance. What is that? We will come to it. So let me do one thing, const speech equal to new speech synthesis utterance. You see over here, right? So what it is going to do, it is going to create an instance of the web speech API that we are actually trying to use, and this is the constructor name actually, right? So this is how it is, right? And now what we need to do, we need to do the same thing. We need to get the voices over here, and after getting the voices, so after getting the voices, what actually we can do it, we can actually store it somewhere. So say for example, const voices is equal to speech synthesis dot get voices, right? And after that, what I am going to do, so this voices is actually an array, right? Let me show you by logging it in the console. So let me call it as voices, and let us see what actually voices is, right? So let me go ahead and let me click on inspect. right? And let me refresh the page, right? So let me speak something. Hello, 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 test. So guys, as you can see that there we have got an array of almost a lot of voices, right? We have got our response as well as this array, right? So what actually this array contains, let us see. So actually it gives us a lot of voices of voice assistants, right? So we are going to use the voice of Friday from there itself. I wanted to show you everything in action, right? So let me do one thing. Let me just remove this, and what we are going to do, let me make a variable or a constant known as Friday voice, and let me give it as voices of, and I have actually gone through the voices and I have found out that from the array actually the voice number 93 actually matches with the voice of Friday itself. You can actually use any voice you want, so you can use any voice you want. There is no restriction in it. I am going to suggest you play around with it, figure it out yourself, play with different voices, right? And that is how actually you build confidence, you actually get interest in coding, right? So const Friday voice is this, and now what I am going to do over here is I am going to say window, I am going to do the window object. So I am going to use the window object, and I am going to say window dot speech synthesis dot, there is a function known as speak, and in this speak actually I actually need to pass the voice assistant. In this speak function actually I need to pass this voices or this speech object or the instance to be precise. In this speak function actually I need to pass this speech instance, but before doing that I want to use this Friday voice that I have extracted out, right, from the array. So what I am going to do for it is that I am going to use the speech, and I am going to set the voice property of it to Friday voice, right, to Friday voice. And let us see now if it works or not. That is that this Siri wave should only come when our Friday is speaking. Now how we can get that? We will again go to the window dot speech synthesis, and it gives us a lot of functions and a lot of attributes or properties. So if you go over here and see, there is a property called speaking. So whenever Friday is speaking or the speech synthesis dot speaking is happening, then only I want to show the Siri wave. Now let us come over our console. Let me clear everything and let us see if this works or not. How is the weather today? Let me hit send. Let us wait. Okay, so this actually is not speaking. Okay guys, so it is actually not speaking because we actually have not provided it anything to speak. So this rest that is coming from here, we actually need to pass it in the speech synthesis utterance, this constructor, and it will actually initialize the speech instance with the response that we are getting from Gemini. Now it should work fine, right? Let me go ahead, let me clear everything and speak something. Hello, how is the weather outside? Let us send it and see.
I do not have real-time access to the internet and cannot provide current weather conditions. To get the most up-to-date and accurate weather information, I recommend using the weather app or website, such as the Weather Channel,
okay. But one thing I want to do over here is that let us stop. Let Siri madam stop. Let Friday madam stop actually.
www.weather.gov/.
Okay, so our Friday madam has now stopped, but I don't want my Friday madam to speak every time. So what I am going to do over here is whenever the component is rendering, I am going to see that if it is already running. So what can happen is if I refresh the page and if it is speaking already, it won't stop, it will keep on speaking. So in order to stop it, what I am going to do is I am going to do something like this. I am again making use of the window dot speech synthesis object, and I am going to add or use another function known as cancel, right? So this cancel, so what this cancel is going to do is that if it is already speaking, it is going to stop it, right? Stop it from speaking, continuing. So it is going to stop it from continually speaking. Okay, so that thing is there, and it should solve our problem right now. Okay, and let me do one more thing. What I want is that whenever I want to stop it, right? Whenever I want to stop it, what do I mean by that? So now, as you can see, if I click on this mic icon and I speak something and I click on this is happening. But when I send it,
Unfortunately, I do not have a microphone icon to click on. I am a text-based AI assistant, and I do not have the ability to speak or record audio.
so guys, now what I am willing to do is, like, whenever Friday is speaking, but I want to speak again, then also I want to cancel it. So whenever it is speaking, and suppose I am clicking on this mic icon, it should stop. So in order to do that, this is the div, right? This is the div. Actually, I am going to add an on click to here as well. And on click, it should again fire a callback function, and I am going to call this window.speechsynthesis.cancel, right? So whenever I am speaking, Friday should stop. Let us test this. This is a test command. Okay, so it is actually generating this thing, and let us now click on send and let us see. Let us wait for some time.
This is the response from...
And you saw whenever I clicked on this icon, this actually stopped, right? We have stopped Siri from doing that. And this is also coming only when Siri is speaking, right? So this is kind of amazing, right? This is kind of amazing stuff that we have done. One last thing I want to show. One last thing, I want you to be curious enough. That is why I am showing it. You can also do one more thing. That is that if you make this continuous property to true, you don't actually need to click on those mic icons and all, right? It is going to continually listen to it. I am not going to do it. You can obviously try doing it, right? One more thing that I was willing to show you is that this commands thing. So you can also pass custom commands, and whenever you speak that command, you can set a predefined message that Friday should speak. It is not going to call OpenAI, or it is actually not going to call an API for that. Let me just copy this commands and let me paste it into my code. So I will be pasting it somewhere near this, and I don't need this much commands, right? If you want it to customize with multiple commands, you can do it. I am doing it only one command, which is like Friday on. So whenever I am saying Friday on, it should ask us something. I am not passing anything in the callback, right? I wanted to speak something like, hello Tony Stark, because we are actually Tony Starks. We have created Friday. Be proud of yourself, my dear friends. Hello Tony Stark, I am Friday in, or I can say at your service. Cool. And this set message, what I can do is, in place of set message, I can directly send it as set Gemini response, right? And let us do one thing. We have to pass this command with in this speech recognition as an object, right? So this commands is actually the key name as well as the value name. So this is a ES6 syntax. Key and value name, if they are same, you can use only one variable for it. Let us see. So what was the start command? Friday on, right? So let me do one thing. Let me refresh the page and say Friday on. Okay, cool, nice. So it is saying, hello Tony Stark, I am Friday at your service. So this is showing, but I also want that it should speak this word. So what I am going to do is I am going to do the same thing over here. For it is I am going to copy these things over here, and I am going to do all those things whenever it is speaking, and this callback function is actually executing. What I am trying to do is that after it has set the response, or even before it has set the response, I am going to paste all of these things over here to make it speak. And in place of rest, what I am going to do is I am going to just send this particular thing, and hopefully it should speak now. Friday on.
Hello, Tony Stark. I'm Friday, at your service.
We have done this thing. We have also customized Friday according to our custom command. Wasn't it amazing, right? Wasn't it amazing? So our text to speech, speech to text, Gemini API integration, all is done. Last thing I want to show you, absolute last thing, is the prompt part. So how can you write a good prompt in our application? Currently what we are actually doing, we are actually currently directly passing this input, but I want to do some prompt engineering. I want to say to Gemini that you have to assume yourself as Friday, right? This is something known as persona. Okay, I am giving it a persona of Friday. Let me show you how you can actually do this cool stuff, right? So what I am going to do, I am going to use a JavaScript literal, and inside that I will be using my input, and before that let me give it some commands. So as I am going to tell it, assume you are the voice assistant of Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, right? Iron Man, and you have to answer each query of the user as Friday. You need to greet the user with, now I am going to use something known as delimiter, which actually tells the AI model that here this is something I want to feed to you. In my case, I am using a single quote as the delimiter, right? So greet with the user, it should not be greet, it should be greet the user with hello Tony Stark. Hello Tony Stark. The user query goes like this. Okay, so and after that our input is being passed. Now let us see if we pass in something to Friday, is it acting as Friday or not, right? So what should we ask Friday? Let me ask it about what are the scheduled posts I have. Let me ask it about what are the meetings I have scheduled. Hey Friday, what are the meetings I have scheduled this week? Cool, this is being generated. Let me click on send. Fingers crossed. Let's see if Friday answers or not.
Hello, Tony Stark. Your scheduled meetings for this week are as follows. Monday 9 a.m. meeting with Pepper Potts, Stark Tower, 3 p.m.
Has
video
responded.
conference with
It has
MIT
responded.
scientists. Tuesday 10 a.m. board meeting, Stark Tower, 2 p.m. press
Let me stop it. Okay guys, so have you seen the thing that whatever is happening right now, is that whatever I am sending it is assuming as Tony Stark, assuming me as Tony Stark. So it didn't have any info about what Pepper Potts is, right? What actually Tony Stark is. I just prompted it to pretend like Tony Stark, right? I didn't give it any context about who Tony Stark is. But are you seeing how powerful it is? It has pulled out the whole persona of Tony Stark, the whereabouts of him, and he has responded, and it has responded me as the voice assistant of Tony Stark with all its detail, right? How cool is it? How awesome is it? So guys, wasn't it amazing? We have actually built our Friday. It is done and dusted. It is working as expected. Now there might be some styling issues, like this is not that much opaque. The scroll bar was coming, right? So you can fix this yourself. Take it as a homework. They are not difficult things. You should be able to do it by yourself also, right? Because you should be curious, you should learn, right? The objective is not only to code along but to learn something, right? So take it as a homework, drop me in the comments how you fix this thing, right? And we have finally built our Friday, right? So in the next video, we are actually going to build a lot more awesome things. We are going to do image generation. In this Avengers series, we are actually bringing Marvel characters to life with the help of AI. And we are going to do next level things going forward. So guys, I am damn sure that you have loved this video. You have learned a lot from this video and you have enjoyed a lot while coding along and while making Friday. If you did so, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, drop in your lovely comments and share this video as much as we can. With that, we'll see you in the next episode. For now, I am Rishabh signing off.